because I really felt like there was no way that I could go into a middle school or high school classroom and be happy. So I was like, I have to make this happen. I have to. So that was kind of like the start of Prose and Pens. Like, this is something that I'm good at. It's also something that people pay for, but it's also something that I can reach outside of my city and still be paid for it. I figured out how I could help them. I looked for a gap in their content and the things that they're producing. And then I figured out how I could fill that gap. And then I went to them with the pitch. Ignore everything else around you that everybody else is doing and focus on how to use those strengths. Hi, this is Dwaynia Wilkerson, and you're listening to Dreams and Drive.
Hey Dream Drivers, this episode is brought to you by Camilla's Kitchen, which is the maker of Caribbean-inspired, high-quality, handcrafted sauces, marinades, spices, cakes, and more. And in these current times, I'm really proud and excited to have a Black-owned brand, woman-owned, founded by a mother and daughter duo from Trinidad and Tobago. So Camilla's Kitchen is really all about helping you live your sauciest life by bringing you these bold Caribbean flavors, such as their spicy mango chutney, island herb blend, and their Trini hot pepper sauce. So as the weather gets warmer and you're interested in heating things up in the kitchen, you definitely want to add Camilla's Kitchen to the mix. So let's support our fellow Dream Drivers, a Black-owned food brand. Visit dreamsanddrive.com/Camilla. That's dreamsanddrive.com/CAMELLA. You'll be directed to a list of all the exclusive stuff. You'll be able to check out everything that Camilla's Kitchen has to offer. And plus, guys, you can use the code DID10 for 10% off at checkout, all right? That's DID10 for 10% off checkout at Camilla's Kitchen. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can turn your talent into profits. Our guest, Dwaynia Wilkerson, is going to be telling you her story of how, after spending 11 years teaching English at a local university, she decided to trade her grade book and dry erase markers in for a laptop and coffee shops and launch her own business. Now, Dwaynia is the owner of Prose and Pens, which provides content writing services to businesses and brands. I really think you guys are going to love hearing from Dwaynia because she is an example of being in it for the long run and the path to figuring out just how to create a business from your talent and really allowing that to thrive and prosper over time. A lot of us think that, all right, I have this idea, I have this talent, I have this passion, I'm going to just get rich quick. And that is definitely not the case for many, many people. So you guys are going to hear about how Dwaynia was able to navigate all these different turns and roadblocks and setbacks in her own journey, but how in the end it was really all worth it and helped her thrive and help her really be at the place where she is today. So some of the things we're going to talk about include, how being clever and strategic and prepared has really helped her along this journey, how you can find clients. We're going to talk about how a betrayal turned into a big blessing for her in a way, and also how you can find the right gatekeepers and decision makers directly. And the thing that I took away from this episode with Dwaynia is that sometimes you really have to just stop waiting on a magical moment and just make things happen for yourself. All right, guys? So if you enjoyed this episode, I'm going to say, please make sure that you're sharing it with a friend, screenshot it, post it to Instagram stories, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you are online, text it, email it to someone. And wherever you're listening, guys, if this is your first time, please make sure that you are subscribed so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. All right, let's hear from Dwaynia. So, let's get started, Dwaynia. You know how I love to go back in time, right? And really taking it back to childhood. What would you say was inspiring you as a child? What was the young Dwaynia dreaming about? What was inspiring you?
As a child, I was inspired by the arts, but I didn't know that it was called the arts. I only knew that my brothers and I have 3 younger brothers. and we would write plays. We would reenact scenes from movies. We would, lip sync in front of our mom. So there was always like singing, dancing, writing, but we had no clue that there was a name for it. It's just something that we did and we had fun.
Okay. And how do you think that dream manifested, or that, this love for the arts, and I'm saying that in quotations, how did that manifest as you grew, into an older adolescent?
So I definitely ditched the singing because I cannot sing. So I figured that wasn't going to be the thing, but I was always able to write, and I didn't, at that age, I didn't understand that there was a talent, that there was a gift, but it was just something that I was able to do. And I remember in the 6th grade, I entered a writing contest, and I can't even remember what happened that I ended up entering, but I did enter and I won 2nd place. And so that was like, okay, this is something that you can do. So that just kind of, when you win anything, that just lights a fire. And so that's, from 6th grade onward, that was just the thing that I knew that I could do.
Was writing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like it was something that you saw as like a career, or did you think, I want to be a professional writer? Because I feel like, when we have these gifts as children, sometimes we don't really understand how they'll manifest when we're adults, right? So what was the thing that you were saying, all right, I could do this with this talent of mine?
I did not see it as a career. But I had no clue, even as a kid who liked to read, and I still like to read, it never clicked that this could be a career option for me. That didn't really happen until I went to college, that I even entertained the thought that this could become a career.
Okay. So college, tell us where you went.
I started college at the University of Southern Mississippi. And when I started college, I actually majored in biology.
Wait. Hold up. Didn't you just... Oh, okay, I'm going to let you finish. Keep going.
Okay, so that's crazy, right? So I knew that my talent was clearly writing and English. But like I said, nobody ever made that seem like it was a viable career option. But everybody made it seem like medicine or law, those were the options. And so I was like, I'm going to major in biology and I'm going to become a pharmacist. Okay, that didn't work out. My first semester in college, I had like a 1.9 GPA. Because I didn't know, I mean, that just wasn't in my skill set at all. And so I stayed at the University of Southern Mississippi for 2 years, and I didn't do well. Aside from the GPA, I was also just like hanging out and partying. And my mama was like, you're going to have to get your life together or come home. So I decided to transfer to Tougaloo College.
Mm-hmm.
In Tougaloo, Mississippi, and that's an HBCU. And when I transferred to Tougaloo, it finally hit me that I should change my major. And that's when I switched to a major in English. I guess they say the rest is history, sort of. I did much better in college. My GPA shot up because I was then in a major where I understood and I was tapping into my skill set, and things just, kind of went from there.
Why do you think so many of us get caught up in this, not really listening to, or not saying not listening, not paying attention to our talents and feeling like, there's no place for that, and then wasting time doing something else? Like, why do you think a lot of us just sometimes get caught up in that?
I think it's financial. Like, my mom didn't go to college. She always told us that she wanted us to do better than she did. And so a great part of doing better than the previous generation is making more money. Everybody thinks that if it has to be law or it has to be medicine or it doesn't exist or it's not going to give you the life or the lifestyle that you want. So I think that it really comes down to financial reasonings. And in the end, though, if you don't go with your skill set and learn how to tap into your skill set, you end up wasting money, which is what I did for 2 years. So, and especially in the arts, people are just now, I would say, starting to see those things as like career options where you can thrive.
Was your mother, when you told her you were going to be an English major, how did she respond to that?
She was fine with it. My mom is actually very supportive. She was fine with it as long as I was going to do something where I could keep my grades up, not waste any more of her money or our money.
Yeah.
And eventually graduate college. So she was supportive.
So you ended up getting that diploma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then what was next? Like, how did you figure out, okay, what am I going to actually do with this degree? Because I feel like a lot of us, I remember when I graduated, I had a degree in sociology. Well, I had a fellowship lined up, but still I was like, wait, what am I actually going to do with this degree, you know?
As an English major, my dream was to become a writer for a national magazine like Essence and Marie Claire and Ebony. So I had my sights set on becoming a writer. But what I didn't realize in college, and I didn't have any guidance in this area, is that you don't just graduate college and then hop over to Essence and Marie Claire. Like there's a process for that. And coming from a southern state, Mississippi, there's even more of a barrier to getting to those positions. And I didn't understand that. And so by the time I graduated college, I hadn't positioned myself to even go into the field of magazine writing. And so I did the more common thing that us English majors do, which is I went into teaching. Yeah, I had never had any plans ever, Raina, of becoming a teacher, but that's how it went.
Was it because you couldn't find like the position, or like how did you stumble upon teaching? Was it like, I don't know, what year did you graduate college? Just so I have the timeline.
2001.
Okay. So I don't think like Teach for America or stuff like that was around then, but what was your introduction to teaching, and then did you like it?
I think my introduction to teaching became, anytime you say you're an English major, people ask, what are you going to do with that? Teach. So they don't even wait for an answer. They just say, what are you going to do with that? Teach. And so when I graduated college, and it kind of hit me that, girl, you are not about to move to New York or any place right now to become a writer. So you have to get a job, and that's going to be teaching. So I went to grad school a year after I finished undergrad. I entered what's called the 5th year program, where you are supposedly able to get your master's degree in 1 year as opposed to 2. But because I had a split major, English and secondary education, it took 2 years. And so my plan was get the master's degree in English secondary education and then go on to teach high school English. Well, in the process of getting that master's, you have to do student teaching. I did student teaching at, I think, a middle school and a high school. And after that 8 weeks of student teaching, I was like, hell no, this is not for me.
You like those kids?
No, I can't even put into words.
Well, that's important, right? At least you knew you didn't like it. Because what if you had went into it and then you just were in, it was just distress. Like, so good thing that you decided that it was not for you.
Yes, student teaching was a blessing because I knew that I just could not pull that one off. And I was talking to a friend about it, and she was like, well, a local university is hiring full-time instructors. And so I went online to look at the position. I met the criteria, or I would be meeting it after I graduated because I needed those master's hours. I applied for the position online, but Raina, I was so desperate to not have to teach middle school or high school that I printed out my resume, a cover letter, some letters of recommendations, and I went to the chair of the English department. I went to her office.
What?
Yeah, I was like,
listen, you was gonna get that job. You would
yes.
get that job.
I went to her office, and when I got there, the secretary said that she was out to lunch, and then she had meetings, and she wasn't sure what time the chair would be back in. So I went outside. I found a chair in the hallway, and I sat there in that chair until the chair of the department came back from lunch.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I have to get this.
So I guess was she impressed? Like how did you give it to her? How did you actually work? Was she like, wait, why are you here? Or was
right.
How did that turn out?
Well, she did ask me, why are you here? And she invited me into her office. She asked for my resume because I told her I had those things, and she saw that I went to Tougaloo College, and she was like, oh, so-and-so taught there. Do you know them? And I did not know them, but I said I did. And she looked at my letters of recommendation, and one of them was from someone she knew. And so she said, well, I'm going to follow up with this person, the person who wrote the letter. And she said, either I or the secretary will give you a call back in a few days to see if we actually have any spots that could be available for you. And so she called me back, not in a few days. I think it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks later. She called me back and she offered me a position.
Amen. Wow. I feel like that's such a story of sometimes you have to do what you got to do. Like you have to, like, you can't wait on things to come to you. Sometimes you have to go to them and tell them, y'all need me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I went to her office that day, I think I was in there maybe 30, 45 minutes. So that was essentially the interview.
And you were prepared because you had all the stuff there. You weren't just trying to do a cold pitch like, hey, I'm Dwaynia. You had everything there to back up what you were saying.
And because I really felt like there was no way that I could go into a middle school or high school classroom and be effective and be happy. So I was like, I have to make this happen. I have to.
Yeah, it's also like sometimes that desperation can really push us to surprise ourselves, right?
Yes.
If you didn't have that desire to not, do middle and high school teaching, maybe you might not have been as inspired to go beyond what's necessary in order to get that job. So then what was teaching at the university like for you?
I loved it. There's a certain amount of freedom because you have like just the times that you teach and your office hours. But other than that, you come and go as you please. I also felt that I could relate better to my students because they were older, 18, 19-year-olds. And of course, I had some non-traditional students as well, but I wasn't so far removed from them. I think maybe I was 26, 27 when I started. And so I wasn't so far removed from them that I didn't understand what they were going through. And so it started as a really, really, really great experience for me. And I'm so thankful for that experience.
So then, Dwaynia, here's the next question then. So what then made you want to say, all right, I kind of am feeling like doing something else? Where did this bug for having a side hustle come from?
I didn't feel challenged. So when you're teaching, although you do, especially at the university level, you have some flexibility, but there are still those things that you just have to teach. And there are some ways that you have to teach it. And you do the same thing over and over and over again each semester, because let's just say I taught English 101, English 102, those entry level courses. You're doing the exact same thing pretty much every semester. What I didn't know about myself, and I have learned as I've gotten older, is that I don't love routine. I like to be able to change it up here and there. And so with teaching and that, the same thing every single semester, even from the faculty staff conference to the departmental meetings to the type of students I came in contact with, it was just all the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I need a challenge. I need to do something new. And so that led me to side hustling.
Which was, what did you decide you were going to side hustle and do?
So the first thing I tried was personal styling, because I loved clothes and I loved putting together, mixing prints and those, that sort of thing. So I tried personal styling, and I did have clients, but I also realized pretty quickly that for the area that I was in, where people weren't necessarily that into style and fashion, that wasn't going to be the thing. That wasn't going to be the thing that allowed me to step away from teaching. I tried another, which was an online jewelry store. That did better, but I wasn't into it.
That's important, right? Because if you're not into it, you need some sort of passion or some sort of desire for whatever it is that you're doing.
Like I could choose the jewelry. I had an eye for it. I knew how to choose pieces that other people would wear, but because I don't wear jewelry, like the most I will wear, like I wear a pair of studs every single day. That's kind of the extent of the jewelry that I wear. And so if you're selling it, you have to wear it. I wasn't into it. I let that fall by the wayside. That led me to Prose and Pens, which is, where I am now.
Let's talk about Prose and Pens, because I really feel like there's a lot that our listeners can learn from how you went about it. So you were like, all right, instead of trying to do these other things that I'm not necessarily passionate about, or, I like fashion, but do I actually want to have a fashion business? You realize how you can turn your natural, talent that you realized in the 6th grade, right? You realize how you can turn that into a money-making revenue stream for you. So, what were the first steps that you did? Like, how did you go about figuring out what your services were going to actually be? And how did you figure out what people would actually want to pay for? Because that's the big thing, right?
Right.
You could always offer a service, but people don't actually want it. So how did you figure out what people wanted to pay for?
In the background of the other 2 entrepreneurial efforts I made, most people who major in English, they will tell you, or people who are writers, or people who teach English, they will tell you that people are always calling, asking them to edit something, to write something, to look over something, to give me feedback. And so that had been occurring since forever, like since I was in college. So I finally started paying attention to it, though, when a friend of mine who is an engineer, he was working on a project, and he was like, I want to bring you in on this, to help us out with this proposal that we're putting together for a job. And I was going to do it just because that's what I'd always done when people asked for my help with writing. And he said to me, I'm going to send over the what we started with so you can look at it, but you send over your rate. And I was like, my rate? And he was like, yeah, you're going to get paid. And so then I was in a scramble to figure out what my rate even was. That led me to, in researching the rate, that led me to just learning about this world of content writing where people actually wrote for a living and got paid for it. So that was kind of like the start of Prose and Pen. It's like, this is something that I'm good at. It's also something that people pay for. It's something that people in my immediate area would pay for, in my city. But it's also something that I can reach outside of my city and still be paid for it. So that was like the catalyst for it all.
Yeah, that is, I feel like that's an amazing story because a lot of us aren't even looking at the things that people are already asking us to do, right? And him telling you to send you a rate, like it's like, oh wait, you serious? You know what I mean?
Right.
I think a lot of us have those questions. Do you feel like your first rates then were do you feel like you priced yourself well or priced yourself accordingly in the beginning, or you kind of just learning as you go?
Absolutely not. I did not price. I know that I don't even totally remember what the rate was that I sent him. But even when I started my business officially, I was priced way too low. And so that has just been, I've had to figure out over the last, I guess it's been 3 years now, exactly how to price myself, why I need to price myself that way, and then how to find the clients that can actually pay that amount. Those are like 3 separate things that you have to figure out and bring together.
And now a word from our sponsor. So a lot of you guys may not know this, but I am a big foodie. Cooking is one of my secret passions. It's one of my pastimes. I love experimenting with different spices and flavors. Ever since I was a kid, you could find me in the kitchen trying to whip something up. So I'm really excited to be sharing with you a little bit more about our sponsor, Kamala's Kitchen. I know a lot of us now are looking for Black-owned brands to support in these times. I would really encourage you to add Kamala's Kitchen to the list. First, the founders, Nyana and her mother, are dream drivers just like yourself. For dream driver Nyana, who's half of the duo, it was watching her grandmother, Miss Kamala, and her entrepreneurial drive as a market vendor in Trinidad that really inspired her to launch Kamala's Kitchen with her mother. So here's a little bit more about the brand. All the flavors are handcrafted in small batches to ensure quality and taste. Plus, with using Kamala's Kitchen, the spices, the herbs, the marinades, it allows you to cook better, cook healthier, and also experience a taste of the Caribbean wherever you are. Some of their popular flavors include the mango pepper sauce, the Trini hot pepper sauce, spicy mango chutney. I actually have that one. I'm going to be making a shrimp dish that I'm going to be sharing with you guys on Instagram, so make sure to look out for that. And also their Island Herb Blend, aka Caribbean Green Seasoning. So if you're interested, they ship to all 50 states. And if you're in the Washington, D.C. metro area, there's an option to pick up as well. They recently released a curated limited edition box just for the summer. One is perfect for grilling, and the other is perfect for those who love or want to try curry. You can get free shipping and on those boxes using the code FREESHIP. To learn more about the brand, to shop, to get more exclusive Dreams and Drive deals, please visit dreamsanddrive.com/Kamala. That's dreamsanddrive.com/CAMELLA. Remember, you can also use the code DID10 for 10% off at checkout. All right, that's DID10 for 10% off checkout at kamalaskitchen.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. Ooh, I love the idea of how to find the clients that will pay the amount, right? Because it's like, that's very hard for a lot of us. How did you end up doing that?
So in growing my business and trying to find clients, I started networking. And I joined the Chamber of Commerce, our local Chamber of Commerce. And within our Chamber of Commerce, there's a smaller little council, the Women's Business Council is what it's called. And I was invited to join there. It's a group of 12 women. And I learned so much from those women about money, who has the money, and how to get in on it. One person in that group, she owned a marketing agency, and she still does, and we still work together to this day. I started because she would outsource the writing that her clients needed. She would outsource it to me. She was very open with me with the proposals that she was sending to clients. She would give me insight into what I should charge, because she was dealing with some high dollar clients, and she just really helped me to, when you're dealing with these type of people, they are used to seeing certain numbers. If you can, especially if you have the goods to deliver to them, they don't mind paying. And so she really helped me to figure out how to price my services.
So finding that mentor figure or somebody along that will kind of take you under their wing is really important.
It is important, if not for any reason than to offer you a level of exposure that you may not have had otherwise. Because I still had to do some digging on my own as far as pricing and how to package services and which services I wanted to offer. But just having her, open my eyes to some things, that was that has been invaluable.
During this time, though, were you still teaching full time?
So I started the business May 2016. That's when I started assigning values to the services. That's when, if someone would call and say, hey, can you edit this? I would say, I sure can for this price. So that's when things stopped being free.
Okay. But that free period it's important, right? But we can't stay there forever. Can't stay that free forever.
And so I was still teaching at that time. And the new semester was going to start in August 2016. And I was thinking, okay, am I going to go back to teaching, or am I going to stop and give this business my full effort? And I was debating, well, let me say this. So in my debating, I had confided in someone that also that was teaching with me. I confided with someone at the university that I was considering leaving. Then one day, out of the blue, I get a call from the secretary in my department, and she says, I heard you were thinking about not coming back. I need to know, yes.
We can't trust these people, do we?
No. And, Raina, I'm sitting on the phone like, oh my goodness. And so she says, yeah, I heard you're considering not coming back. She's like, the semester starts in 2 weeks. I need to know, like, ASAP whether you're coming back or not, because if you're not, we need to get somebody to replace you. If you are, we need to put you on the schedule. And I just really didn't even have any words to say to her in that moment, because I was hurt that I confided in somebody and they, did that to me. And then I just was not expecting to be put on the spot. So I told her that if she would give me until the end of the next day, I would let her know. When I hung up from her, I prayed about it. Like, literally, I sat there on my couch and I prayed about what I should do. And I got in my car and I went to the grocery store. And, my prayer was, I don't know how this is going to turn out. Like, what should I do, God? Just please tell me what to do. When I got in the car, driving to the grocery store, I sat at a red light. And I just remember hearing, if I gave you the entire plan right now, that wouldn't be you stepping out on faith.
Mm.
And so I took that, and I still waited until the next day, but I did call her back and I told her that I would not be returning. And that was mid-August 2016.
How did it feel to tell her that?
I was so scared.
But you had to have that faith, right? Like you said.
Yeah, I was terrified, but I did it anyway. Looking back, of course, now I don't regret it at all. But in that moment, I was like, are you sure that you know what you're doing? And the answer was no, but I did it anyway.
So I was going to the question I was going to ask you was, do you feel like you were prepped to leave? Like, do you feel like that you had like enough with the business going on, you had enough clients to kind of sustain yourself? Because being a professor at that, that's pretty stable, right? So you're going from this level of stability to instability, and the world of entrepreneurship, as you know, is not easy. So how was that transition?
I prepared. Like, I'm a researcher. I did all the reading. You know how you can Google, so what do I need to do if I'm leaving my job, right? And so everybody says you save up at least 6 months living expenses. You have clients, you do this, you do that. And I felt like I did all of those things. Like, I had money for a year. I did have clients, but it's like, once you get out there, you have no idea that you don't know what you don't know. Like, you can't account for those things that just come up because you didn't even know to make account for those things. And so that's when it started to get tough for me.
What were those challenges that you were facing? The things that you didn't know that you didn't know?
Okay, so when you're planning, let's just say, have a year of living expenses. So that's 12 months. My money ran out at 7 months.
Oh, man.
Yeah. One thing that I didn't account for in my planning was that now I really had to step my networking up. And some of the networking was paid. So that was money that I was spending that wasn't accounted for. I joined some organizations. That was money that I was spending that wasn't accounted for. I did, flyers and things like that at the beginning. That was money being spent that wasn't accounted for. And so the money went faster. Also, I hadn't yet gotten to a retainer model in my business. So all of my clients were kind of one-off. That wasn't pretty. So it was just those things, like the money ran out. The clients weren't as consistent as they needed to be. I wasn't charging as much as I needed to charge to make things work. So all of that kind of hit me in the face.
So then month 7, what do you do when there's no more money?
So I was working with the marketing agency, and she was outsourcing her work to me. And I got put on a retainer with her for a client. And I basically just made calls to friends to make sure that they came across anybody who needed services to let me know. Mm-hmm. And Raina, to be honest, it was like super touch and go. Like, I was just, when I would get a job in, say somebody needed something small like a bio, I would do that job. That money would go straight to like a smaller bill, a utility bill. If I got a bigger job, like website, I did a website job, then that money would go straight to something larger, like rent. It was literally get a job, pay something. Get a job, pay something. And that was stressful.
Did you ever regret your decision of leaving? Or did you ever think about, all right, maybe I need to go back and get a full-time job again?
As crazy as it sounds, even the mornings when I woke up with tears in my eyes because that happened, I didn't regret. I didn't regret leaving my job. And there were times that I did apply for other things. Nothing ever came through. Ever.
So it's like, no, we don't want you. Stay
Right.
where you at.
Right. I even tried adjuncting at another university, and typically that would be no problem because people are always looking for adjuncts, and it was like, no, we're full. We don't need anybody. A friend of mine, her church was looking for someone to do like some administrative things a few hours a week. Mm-hmm. So she had me send my resume to her, and she sent it on to the person who, was in charge of, making that decision. And they were like, nope. And I'm like, okay. So I did go after some things, and none of it panned out. And so I was like, girl, you just have to make this work.
So then, Dwaynia, when did that transition happen for you in your business, when things started to pan out and you really started to get a hold of, what the future of Prose and Pens would be?
When I really sat down and I started looking at, okay, this is how much money you need to make. And I started to really think about the types of clients that I needed. And I realized that I had to get out of my comfort zone because up until that point, I was really around the people and the places that were familiar to me. And I realized that those people weren't necessarily my clients. And I had to go out and find clients who, number one, understood the importance of content marketing and content writing for their businesses, number one, because I was wasting too much time educating people on why they needed this. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, I had to find those people who also were willing to pay for it. When I made that shift and I raised my prices, and I just decided that I would have to do something different to find a more suitable client, that's when things started to change.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned this in your pitch. You talk about how in this day and age, a lot of us feel like we have to be very present on social media, and that's the only way for us to get really big and get clients and have a sustainable business. Why weren't you so focused on social media, right? Because a lot of times people are saying you have to be on social media, but you really don't, right?
Mm-hmm. So I did fall into that trap of I have to be on social media. So I had Instagram. I do still have Instagram, but I was more active on there. LinkedIn, I did Twitter, I did Facebook. And what I found was that I was getting attention on there, but the people who would contact me were typically people who were very new in their businesses, and they didn't have the money to pay for the services. I don't think the people who found me on Instagram understood the quality of work I could provide, and they didn't understand the cost of that quality.
And those weren't your target market. It's kind of like Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce isn't doing Instagram ads to get new clients, right?
Right. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm spinning my wheels on Instagram. Like I'm making all these posts, I'm answering comments, I'm getting people in my DM, but it's not going anywhere. So how do I get to the people who are a better match for my business? And I realized that the CEOs, the decision makers, for the companies I'd like to work with, they aren't on social media themselves. Their businesses might be on there and might be very prominent on there, but they are not the people behind the account. And so that's when I was like, okay, you just have to pitch to those people directly.
So what was the secret you had for pitching to the people who weren't on social media? How did you find them then?
I started by making a list of the businesses that I would potentially like to work with. And so I brought that all the way down to some very specific things. So their yearly revenue should be 3+ million, at the very minimum, 3 million. They also need to be engaged in marketing. Like they should have a big social media following. They should be active on social media. They have an email list, but they're underutilizing the email list. They have a blog on their website, but they haven't posted to the blog in 6 months, 8 months, a year. So that let me know that they wanted to have those things, but they either didn't have someone dedicated to do them, or the people they had on their team already just didn't have the time. They should also not have in-house marketing, because if they had in-house marketing already, they didn't need me 9 times out of 10. So those were the 3 things that I looked for before I pitched, and kind of just went from there. I figured out how I could help them. I looked for a gap in their content and the things that they're producing. And then I figured out how I could fill that gap. And then I went to them with the pitch.
And I feel like a lot of times people are always, I think the exercise that you did was really important, because there are companies out there with budgets to pay independent, contractors, small businesses like yourself. Like even for me, with Dreams and Drive, one of the things that I do outside of the podcast is I do email marketing for a small business, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily the sexiest job, but it's a job that every month is stable, right? I get my hours in every month. I provide this service. And like you said, they meet a lot of the criteria. And there are a lot of small businesses who don't even know they need this service, but would be willing to pay for it, especially if you're able to show them how it's going to help them make more money, or how it's going to help them grow their business. So I think sometimes a lot of us get, really deterred from even pitching our unique, niche businesses because we feel like there's no market. But sometimes you have to really get really specific and stop trying to just go after what's Instagram sexy or go after what, other people are doing. Like really get niche. And that makes you stand out too if you're emailing people instead of trying to be in their DMs trying to, pitch them services, right?
Right. And I think that's where, because like I said, I got caught up in the be all over social media thing too. And I think that people need to look at, okay, what is my business, and does social media really benefit me? Like even some of the clients that I do work for, some of them have a big social media presence and following, and then others of them are non-existent because their clients are not on there. So, and they're not attracting clients that way. So there's no need for them to waste their time there. They would prefer to focus on like blog content and email content because their particular client likes to read more than scroll. Yeah. So I think that people really have to really think about, does social media fit my business? Is it going to help me grow my business? And I do understand that it's easy to get caught up in the social media hype, because I've been there. When everything is on the line and you have to make some decisions and you have to do, like you just said, the thing that's not sexy, then you just have to do it.
Dwaynia, what were some of the things that you were learning about yourself along this journey, right? Because I feel like there's so much that you've gone through, so much that you've learned. what were those lessons you were learning about yourself?
A few things. One, I learned that I am resilient because in the down times, I did have people who were like, just go get a job or, do this or maybe do that. But I knew in my heart, I knew that this was going to work out. I just knew it. I have come to appreciate that I trusted my gut, that I pushed through those very, very, very hard times to keep going. But I also learned that I lacked discipline and I lacked patience. And that was kind of hard for me to confront, especially the discipline part.
Especially because you come from being a teacher, right? You would think, okay, yes. I have things together. I'm organized. I know how to do plans. But what about the discipline specifically did you realize that you needed to tweak some things?
So when you're working at any job, I think, even though I had flexibility and autonomy in teaching, I still had to show up for class at a certain time each day. I had to get my grades in on time. I had my office hours. So those things, although there was flexibility, those things were planned. When you go out on your own, I would wake up sometimes in the morning and I had this conversation with a friend of mine, it's like, what the hell do I do with my day? So I wake up and then what? You still have to provide yourself with some level of structure. So do you get up and eat breakfast? Do you get up and work out? What time do you set up your computer to work? And so I had to learn some things about myself. I learned that I work better in the mornings. So before I got on the call with you today, I actually sent a pitch because I knew that once we wrapped up, I was kind of going to, be over it for the day. Like I can do some little tasks, but putting the thought into a pitch, it just wasn't going to happen after we end this call. Mm-hmm. And so it was getting in the habit of setting a routine for myself and learning how I am able to best work so that I can keep things rolling with the business.
And I feel like those are lessons that we all could take. I think the whole idea of knowing yourself and knowing, all right, are you a night person? Are you a morning person? Because it's like, don't fight what you are, right? Like if you know you're a morning person, adjust your schedule so you can be as efficient as possible. So when you think about this whole business and you think about everything you've gone through, what would you tell somebody who feels like giving up, right? Let's say they're in reverse. Let's say they're even in park. Like what's that thing that maybe has kept you from giving up that you would give them as words of encouragement?
So I think that you have to have that gut feeling that you're doing the right thing. And I know that's not tangible. And the reason that I'm saying this is because when I am, let's just say on social media, I hear people saying, I see people saying, I want to be an entrepreneur. I just don't know what business I want to start. I know some people would disagree, but if you are wanting to be an entrepreneur just because it's popular right now, you don't want to do this thing. Like if you have no idea in your head what type of business you could start from your skill set, you maybe want to rethink this. 10 years ago, entrepreneurship wasn't on my mind. Like I feel like I was literally led to this. Some people say they want to be an entrepreneur because they don't want to work for anybody else or they're a bad employee. I was not a bad employee. I was actually a great employee. And because of that, I had a lot of autonomy and a lot of trust at work because I did what I was supposed to do and I did it well. Mm-hmm. And if you are a person who's, screwing off at work and you just want to get away from that environment and you think entrepreneurship is the answer, is probably not going to be. So I would say that you really have to give yourself a gut check and be really honest about why you are doing this and what you hope to accomplish, because those are the things that are going to keep you going. Like, I feel like I have only just scratched the surface with Prose and Pens. Now that I have some idea in my mind where I would like to see this business go. And if I stop, I know that I'm never going to get to that place. So I have to keep going.
So what's next? If you want to share a little bit of the vision, and maybe you don't, but like what's next for Dwaynia? What's next for Prose and Pens?
I don't mind sharing at all.
Okay.
So short term, one of my goals is to work with a franchise business. And I have a list of franchises that I am going to pitch. And so that's one of I feel like that would be great for Prose and Pens. It would be great for me. And it would just give me, another sector of business that I have explored. So that's one of my short terms, to do some work with the franchise. I'm also working on increasing the visibility of the business. That's another short term goal. Well, that's ongoing, but I'm starting it now. So, because I realized in preparing for this podcast, although there is no need for my business to be splattered all over social media, I probably didn't give you much to work with, Raina.
You had a good pitch, which I think was good, right? It was a good pitch.
Okay. So I would like to just increase the visibility of the business a bit. Long term, though, I would definitely like to bring on a few full-time employees. And if I don't get full-time employees, I would like to have some sector of Prose and Pens, and I haven't figured this out yet, but I would like for this to be a place where young people who are majoring in marketing, communications, media can get some mentorship, some experience, some training for how to actually pursue those careers. Because there are so many people who major in marketing and communications, and then you speak with them a year or two after graduation, and where are you working? And they're doing something totally unrelated to what they spent that money on in school to do. And I feel that there is a barrier because people, somehow there's this, I don't know how this got started. It's probably the whole stigma around the arts that if you major in one of these fields, you're not going to be able to make money and you're not going to be able to make a living for yourself. And that's untrue. It's just that there are barriers. And so I would like to be a resource to help young people navigate those barriers. Mm-hmm. I don't really know what that's going to look like, but that's a goal.
Well, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dwaynia. And, for anyone who's listening, because you never know who's listening, right? There might be somebody right now who works on the, marketing team at a franchise, or somebody who meets one of the criterias of the businesses that you work with. Tell our dream drivers how they can get in contact with you if they want to learn more about your services, or if they, want to hire you for something. Because I really want to start making this show really not also about you telling your story, but about people being able to connect with you. And you never know what could happen. You never know what kind of further connections you can make from this.
Okay, so the website is always a great option. It's www.proseandpens, ProseandPens.com. And feel free to email me, Dwaynia, DWAYNIA @proseandpens.com. And I do have an Instagram page, Prose and Pens. And those are the three primary ways. I do prefer email or contact through the website. That just helps keep everything streamlined. And I am totally hit or miss on social media.
All right. Well, thanks for keeping it real, right? And last thing, Dwaynia, if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success, right? Mm-hmm. So can you tell our dream drivers 3 things that you think they need in their toolkit before they hit the road?
Okay. So the first thing I would say is they need a true assessment of their strengths and weaknesses. Like, know what you're really great at and what you probably need some help with. And until you can get help with those weaknesses, really, really, really work to capitalize off those strengths. Like, ignore everything else around you that everybody else is doing and focus on how to use those strengths. Number 2, a spirit of resilience. People often feel like they need so much support to make their dreams happen and to make things go. And sometimes you're just not going to have support, not from your family, not from your friends, but that's no reason for you to give up. So you have to be resilient. And then lastly, patience. If you don't have patience, you run yourself crazy trying to make something happen before it should. I can think back to so many times that I've done things in this business, trying to rush it along and it didn't work out. And now I can look back and be glad that it didn't work out because I wasn't ready.
Thank you, Dwaynia. I'm so happy that this is your first podcast interview. Yes. I think you killed it, and I will definitely, don't be afraid to start pitching more people, get your story out there, because I feel like stories are really what inspire people, and yours is one that I'm sure other people will definitely be impacted by and be inspired to put their own dreams into drive. So thank you.
Okay. Well, I thank you. I love your podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah. I always feel like you ask all the right questions. Because sometimes I've listened to podcasts and I'm like, man, I wish they had asked this or asked that question. And I feel like you always get it right. You always ask the questions that, we really want the answers to. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm like a professional nosy person. that's my talent. I'm the chief question asker. My mom said my favorite question as a kid was why. I was that girl who was like, why? But why? But how? Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it really does take, like you said, you had to realize what your talent was and what you enjoy doing. And I think sometimes I run from it like, all right, but it's just, can you really just be good at asking people questions about their lives? Like, how is that worthwhile? Or how is that anything special or important? But every time I do an interview and every time I get that feedback, especially from guests, like right after I interview them, it really does make me realize that we all do have our unique talents. Yeah. And that running from it is such a time waster, right? Just embrace it and figure out how to make it work for you. All right, so that's a wrap for episode 241 with Dwaynia. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey and her keys to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you're sharing it across your platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram stories, Facebook. Even texting it or emailing it to a friend is really important. I think sharing our story, sharing inspiration, especially during all that we're dealing with in society now, is really important. We need to see stories of encouragement. We need to see stories of inspiration. We need to see stories of resilience, people who look like us, who are out here doing great things. So I really appreciate you guys if you make that something that you do this. Also, in talking about support, don't forget about this week's sponsor, Camila's Kitchen, a Black-owned, female-owned brand from the DC area. If you're interested in trying any of their spices, marinades, or herbs, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Camila. That's CAMELLA. And you can use the code DID10 for 10% off at checkout. All right, guys, and wherever you're listening, please make sure that you are subscribed. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving us a rating and review. I want to share this one coming in from Shirley. She says, love Raina. Raina has interviewed some insanely accomplished people from all walks of life. And because of that, you get an array of stories to listen to that will both inspire and motivate you. Thank you so much, Shirley. I really do appreciate that. If you guys want to join our weekly newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly updates about the brand, about your own dream driving journey, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. We also do have our Dreams and Drive shop that's still open. We're selling Dreams and Drive tees, crew neck sweatshirts, and aprons. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop if you want to shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. A lot of you have also asked me, how can we support Dreams and Drive? What are other ways? Well, I definitely want to let you know that we also have a Patreon community. So if you want to be supporting Dreams and Drive for $5 a month, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/donate. That's dreamsanddrive.com/donate. And I want to just take a time out. I didn't post an episode last week because it was just really a tough week for a lot of people, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in all aspects of the word, just to see. I know I've been inspired and I've been motivated to take action by all that I've been seeing in response to all these horrific events against Black lives. And I encourage you all to continue to educate yourselves, continue to be a part of change in the way that you see best. It's something that I had to sit with myself, because I think sometimes when we go on social media, we can sometimes feel like, oh, am I doing enough? Am I not? Do I have to post something? And I found this really good post the other day that put into perspective a lot of things for me. And it's really the idea of how we each have a part, right? There will be some people at the front lines. There'll be some people who are the nurturers, some people who are the healers, some who are the storytellers. So finding your unique place, finding the way that you can best be a part of change during these times is really important. I encourage you all to stay inspired, to stay together, to really build each other up, and to really take this time to see just how much is possible when action is taken. All right? Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 242. Bye, guys.